John Chapman was born July 14, 1965, Springfield, Massachusetts, United States. He would grow up to become a hero to his brothers on the battlefield, as well become a hero to many more.
Were so captivating. You can just see down into his soul that he was a good, decent person.
You had his commitment. You knew you had a teammate for life. After losing one teammate out of the back of a helicopter, he immediately started working with a gunship to put eyes on, to recover him to get back home.
He decided in his own mind that to safeguard his teammates' lives, that he couldn't do that and protect his own life. John sacrificed himself for others. When I went to Valerie's doorstep to tell her that John wasn't coming home, and I saw those beautiful little girls that were 5 and 3 at the time, I thought, you know, they're gonna grow up without their daddy. I think of that every time I think of John.
If John was to find out he was receiving the Medal of Honor, he'd be very humbled by it. He was doing his job, and that's what he would tell you.
He would probably want to recognize the other men that lost their lives. Even though he did something that he will be awarded the Medal of Honor for, he would not want the other guys to be forgotten. You know, that they were part of the team together. And I think he would say that part of this Medal of Honor was not just for him, but it was for all of the guys that were lost on that line.
He was an authentic, true hero. And I'm glad and proud to say that I was one of his teammates.
Thank you for giving your life to our country, and I'm very proud of you.
It's in the Battle of Talkergur that John Chapman would cement his name into the heroically filed Medal of Honor history books. In Operation Anaconda in March 2002, small reconnaissance teams were tasked to establish observation posts in strategic locations in Afghanistan. The mountain of Talkergur was an ideal spot for such an observation post, with excellent visibility to key locations. Sergeant Chapman and operations teammates, during the mission on the night of March 3rd, was to establish a reconnaissance position on Talkergur and report Al-Qaeda movement in the Sahikout area. This was very high profile, no-fail job, and we picked John, said retired Air Force Colonel Ken Rodriguez, who was Sergeant Chapman's commander at the time. In a very high-caliber career field, with the highest quality of men, even then, John stood out as our guy. During the initial insertion onto Afghanistan's Talkergur mountaintop on March 4th, the MH-47 Chinook helicopter carrying Sergeant Chapman and the Joint Special Operations Reconnaissance Team was ambushed. A rocket-propelled grenade struck the helicopter and bullet impacts ripped through the fuselage. The blast ripped through the left side of the Chinook, throwing Navy Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts off the ramp of the helicopter, and onto the enemy fortified positions atop the mountaintop below. The aircraft was severely damaged, unable to return for Petty Officer Roberts, and began a downward descent to perform a controlled crash landing a few miles from the mountaintop. This began the chain of events that led to the deaths of 7 U.S. servicemen and now, years later, posthumous award of the Medal of Honor to Sergeant John Chapman. After being ejected from the aircraft during the initial barrage, Petty Officer Roberts was in desperate need of support. The remaining Joint Special Operations team members were all fully aware of his precarious situation. His teammates immediately began planning a daring rescue attempt, including returning to the top of Talkergur where they had just taken heavy enemy fire and was shot down. As the team attempted to return to Petty Officer Roberts' last known position, now on a second MH-47, the bunkered down enemy forces immediately engaged the approaching helicopter with heavy fire. The helicopter, although heavily damaged, was able to successfully offload the remaining Special Operations team members and return to base. Sergeant John Chapman, upon exiting the helicopter, charged uphill through the hip to thigh deep snow toward enemy positions. all the while being fired at from 3 directions. Once the SEAL team was on the ground, they assessed the situation and moved quickly to the high ground. The only foreseeable cover and concealment on the hilltop were a large rock and tree. As they approached the tree, Sergeant Chapman received fire from 2 enemy personnel in an entrenched position. He returned fire, charged the enemy position all while under heavy fire. Once he made it up to the fortified position, he charged in and took out the enemy combatants. Almost immediately, the team began taking machine gun fire from another fortified enemy position only 12 meters away. Sergeant John Chapman deliberately moved into the open to engage the new enemy position. As he heroically engaged the enemy, he was struck by a burst of gunfire and became critically injured. Sergeant Chapman regained his bearings and continued to fight relentlessly despite severe wounds and blood loss. He sustained a violent engagement with multiple enemy fighters for over an hour through the arrival of the Quick Reaction Force, before paying the ultimate sacrifice. In performance of these remarkably heroic actions, Sergeant Chapman is credited with saving the lives of his teammates. John was always selfless. It didn't just emerge on Tucker. He had always been selfless and highly competent, and thank God for all those qualities, said Colonel Rodriguez. He could have hunkered down in the bunker and waited for the Quick Reaction Force and Combat Search and Rescue Team to come in, but he assessed the situation and selflessly gave his life for them. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content.